So we've seen that instead of circles and triangles and rectangles, these basic shapes, it's helpful to think about volumes in three-dimensional space when we look at the objects that we want to draw. And we can break down any complex object in these basic three-dimensional forms. And this constructive approach gives you a structural understanding of the object instead of limiting yourself to merely copying what you see and applying these basic objects that make everything look a little bit flat. So this is a really great technique to show that you're drawing, that the object you're drawing has three-dimensionality, it has a life of its own. It's also really great for complex object because it allows you to think about how this object is put together, how it works in space. So it allows you to practice your spatial thinking. And this is basically what we need for all of our drawings. So let's see how this works for a more complex object like an animal. You will see that I will combine all of the techniques that we looked at previously, but in the beginning I'm relying heavily on this constructional approach. So we will be drawing a scuttlefish, and I will begin by stating the basic shape of his body, or maybe the basic volume of his body, which is sort of this cone shape. And it has this structure coming out of it at the side, which to me, I don't know what the word for this is, maybe a, a fin. And this needs to be higher up. So at any point in your drawing, don't be afraid to make corrections, especially at this early stage of drawings. It's really better to make these corrections in the beginning than to see that you've made a mistake and you have all of your details already drawn. So I think I will just erase the whole line and then go from there again. And if it helps, do add these constructional lines, because they can really help you figure out what happens with all of these lines that you're drawing. And this scuttlefish even has this nice texture going on his back, so I might as well add this instead of my construction lines, because it really shows the shape of his body. Okay. So that's the back, and I imagine this part here where his body meets the head, I imagine there to be an elliptical shape, sort of like this opening where his head attaches. So the first thing that I'm going to add are the eyes, and they are like this round structure with a flat top. So I'm going to draw this and then place the eye, which is like this really weird alien shape. It's really fascinating what kinds of animals and different beings nature has come up with. Okay, let's okay, and then we have the other eye, which is another rounded shape. And then there's the rest of the head, are these tentacles. And again, I imagine them being attached to the head in this sort of elliptical shape. And of course, these structures, these tentacles themselves are also three-dimensional, so I need to take into account how they're sort of wrapping around each other. And you can also add some of these contour lines here. So I'm just adding a few because I don't want them to dominate what I'm drawing here, but I just need to figure out how all of this stuff is working together. Okay. And for these areas at the edge where some of the tendrils come out of the main form, I'm actually looking at the negative spaces. I'm looking at the background and how it's different, what angles I have here. As we've seen, one helpful concept is always to draw through your lines to show the entire volume so that you have an understanding of the actual volume and understand how one part attaches to the other. So you saw me indicating that this is elliptical, that this part where the tendrils attach is probably also elliptical. You don't have to know the entire anatomy of the animal, but it's helpful to at least show how these volumes are attached to each other. And I always try to think about these objects as if they're made of glass. And yeah, you can always erase these lines as soft as they might be. You can, if you don't like them, you can always erase them when you're finished with a drawing, or you can, trace your drawing and do a clean version of it if you prefer. So also what we've seen, it's really, really a good idea to follow the form with your contour lines. We've practiced adding contour lines to these blob volumes last time. And the most important part is that you understand how the volume works. You don't need to draw these contour lines every time. So in the end, it's more of a mental exercise than really a drawing exercise. So as you just saw in my demonstration, more complex organic forms require you to combine several of the basic forms that we just learned about. So basically what I did here was I had this cone and then I attached a ball and another ball to this cone, and then I went a bit further and had another elliptical shape that was attached, and then I had all of these tendrils coming down here. So try to think about these really, how you can break something down into a really easy shape and then attach things like these eyes that protrude from the volume, how you can attach them and put them on top and make sense of them in a spatial setting. Okay? If you found this short lesson useful, it's part of a longer class called Sketching Fundamentals. This class is a foundational drawing class that will teach you basic sketching techniques. In this in-depth introduction, you will learn how to see like an artist, explore different drawing techniques, create quick sketches from observation, and learn how to become confident with your line work. I will show you how you can master basic drawing skills step by step, and we will take a look at materials, mark making, textures, understanding perspective and shadow, practice a lot so that you get visible results, and most importantly, you will learn how you can draw anything. The whole class has 8 hours of video and over 50 demonstrations. I hope you will join me for this class to explore sketching fundamentals and learn how to draw everything in nature with more confidence.